that was virtually as well. Once the baby was here, we it was just the two of us. So I'm dealing with like C-section, and I had an infection, so they had to deal with that. And then my daughter is like slightly early, so she was like under observation, and it's just my husband and I just here by ourselves, both first time parents. And it was a huge like learning curve for us, and we were constantly exhausted. I was pumping around the clock, so every 2 hours I was pumping, and it was just so stressful. Once people could get vaccinated, my parents and his parents got vaccinated, so then we were able to see them with masks on. So they would come in like or a couple of times. His parents are like between New York and Florida. So at that point, they had to go back to New York. So my parents would come over and help us with the things around the house, and so that we could like just function and get moments to probably take a nap or to eat a meal or bath. And so that was very helpful. But being like in the situation, having a baby during COVID has been very difficult in terms of maintaining relationships. I've seen has been kind of difficult because explain to people, well, I can't hang out with you because I do not feel comfortable having my baby around too many people at once. Or, yes, we would love for you to come over, but would you be willing to take a COVID test if you were to enter our house? We had one situation where a family friend got very upset because they were sick the day before they were visiting us, and they didn't tell us. We only heard from someone else that they had been sick. And when they came over, we said, well, did you take a COVID test? And the person was like, no, I feel fine now. And we said, well, do you like what were your symptoms? And he said, well, I couldn't taste anything, I couldn't smell anything, but I was able to smell my cocktail this morning, so I'm fine now. And my husband said, well, we'd really appreciate it if you would take a COVID test. We have them, you can take it, it only takes 15 minutes. And he got so offended that we would ask him to take a COVID test and stormed out of the house. And we we're only having like about 5 people over because it was my mom's birthday and we went to celebrate with her. But it ended up just like the celebration went out the window. My mom was upset, like my husband was upset because the person left. And it's now that we have kind of like this strange relationship with that person, and family members connected to that person now because of that whole incident. Like we haven't like seen them again or heard from them again. So we've had situations like that. We have felt very isolated in some cases because we would hope that people would understand, but people are now like, well, it's over. Everything is fine. Everywhere's open. You don't even need to wear a mask anymore. What are you also worried about? And we say, well, we're thinking about things like long COVID, and we still don't know everything there is to know about the virus. And developmentally, she's growing. So we want to take as few risks as possible. So we've had that, and her socialization was a bit delayed in terms of only seeing our faces. Everybody else she had ever seen in the first maybe 8 or 9 months of her life were had masks on. So now she's actually starting to see people without masks outdoors, and it's becoming kind of like more familiar with her. She's getting opportunities to go on the playground and interact with other kids, but it's definitely been difficult trying to navigate all of that.
Thank you. On that same line, someone had a question earlier. Are you sometimes concerned that COVID will impact the behavior/learning process of your children?
Definitely.
I think so. I think so too.
Like it's for somebody in my field where this is what I study. I study human development. So like being in a household with somebody who I know these are critical aspects of their overall development, and they're not necessarily receiving it in the normal sense that others would. We've had to do like a lot of alternative things to ensure that she is getting familiarized with like society and people, and like learning of her behaviors and other people's behaviors as well. Like we're actually we recently got a tutor for her who's going to start in the fall, who's going to come over and do one-on-one tutoring with her to help. Since we're both educators and we're very mindful about the learning aspect of it, so we do a lot of activities with her and like interaction so she can learn new things. But it's different, and it's very, very hard, and it makes me a bit nervous.
Well, to add to what you were saying, Emilia, I really think that it affected our son in a way that he's super, super attached to me and my husband. Like wherever we go, if we are around, there is no way he's going to find anyone else. Even like play dates at my cousin's house, and it's not like he doesn't know my cousin. It's not like he doesn't know like her kid, but he won't go. He won't stay. You know, like he's super attached. And because of COVID, like when we moved back to Haiti, we decided not to get a nanny, just because we wanted to protect ourselves. We didn't want someone that comes and goes and, you know, brings COVID into our house. So we decided to do everything ourselves. So he doesn't know anyone else aside from us, you know, to take care of him. And at 8 months, I started taking him to my aunt's house, who has like a tiny daycare. And he's gonna be going to school in the fall, and I'm actually a little worried. So like, you know, my aunt has probably like 7 kids at her house, which is, and he was the youngest one, which means that he spent most of his time with her by himself. So so I'm really excited and also very anxious about how it's going to go in the fall when he's going to be starting school.
Thank you both for sharing about that. And well, I'm not gonna bother asking my mom about experience with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joanne, you wanted to ask next question?
Thank you so much for sharing all of this, because sometimes, like, you know, especially with COVID being so isolated, I know for myself, I tend to think like what I'm living, it's only me living it. And, you know, nobody else gonna understand because I'm going through this thing. I'm going crazy. Oh my gosh. Like, but it's reassuring to kind of know that somebody else is like sharing the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not crazy. Let me slow down, take a deep breath. Okay, maybe we can figure this out together. So thank you so much for being so open about the topic. So the next question is, what do you enjoy about being a mother?
Um, Definitely, you know, like the random moments, I think, are the best. You know, like this morning, I picked him up from bed. I took him to the kitchen so he can have his milk, because this kid is a little weird. That's the first thing he wants. So, um, so as I'm like, you know, like preparing the milk, I'm talking to him, asking him if he had like a good night, and he's like, "Oui, mama, oui, mama." And then I was like, "Do you want to give me a kiss?" And then he looks at me, he's like, "Yes." And then he just pulls me really close. And then he just gives me like this big kiss. I give him his milk. He's like, "Merci, mama. Bye-bye." And he runs. And I'm like, "Yeah, this is it. This is why." Yeah. So it is definitely the random moments.
I agree. Like those moments, you're like, oh my God, you're mine, and you're so amazing. Definitely have those moments where she does things, and I'm thinking, how did you learn to do that? What do you do? This morning, she decided that she was taking toilet paper from our bathroom, and she was going to clean. So she takes pieces of toilet paper and then she's wiping stuff down, and like, please stop that. And she goes and she takes some more and she's white going around our bedroom dusting according to her. And or when she would learn a new word and she'd be so proud of herself for knowing a new word. Like sometimes she will hear us say a word and she will repeat it and like, oh great. And she has this thing about clapping for herself. She's very self-celebratory. So when she does something, she's like, good job, good job. I'm like, yes, good job, baby, good job. So she's always waiting. So she would do something and she'll look at us and she start clapping, like, hello, anyone going to clap for me here? So those moments are that always just like great and like, fascinating. I think for me, another thing that I love the best is saying that I have a daughter, honestly, because I it became something that was so far away out of grasp for me. And every time hearing a different specialist tell me that it will not happen. And we're not even sure if IVF will work for you, but only thing we can do is give it another try and just like getting to the point where we had really just given up on the idea of this happening. And then for her to be here every day, we look at her and we look at each other and we start smiling, thinking, she's here. She's walking around the house. She's real. She's ours. And I think that for me, that ends up being one of the most meaningful things. And the way that she says mama and dada, like it's like, yeah, that's us. We're someone's mother and father.
Awesome. There's only more to come from now. They'll have these little moments. They never stop. They surprise you. They amaze you in some ways. Like, wait, when did you learn that? Yeah. Yeah. So we will be moving on to the next question. And this one is very interesting in the sense that somebody asked me that question once. Do I think that boys and girls should be raised differently? I wasn't raised like that. I came from families where since my grandmother, everybody who went through her house, boys and girls, everybody knows to do everything that there needs to be. There wasn't a difference. My mom carried on the same thing and I carried on the same thing with my kids. So that was a, what? What do you mean? Kind of question. So now I want to pass a question to you, ladies. Okay, well, Emilia, we're gonna get to you maybe last. Sounds like you have a lot to say. Okay.
Well, I wasn't raised like that. I don't think that my parents never did anything to make me feel that way. My dad always said that I could be whatever I wanted to be. So instead of being a doctor like the rest of them, I went on and became a designer. So, but and I'm doing the same thing with my son, and I'm already, he has his little chores at 2. He helps me with the laundry, he helps feed the dog. So it's not mom is doing this or dad is doing this. It's like everybody is doing everything. So I'll do the laundry, he'll do the laundry with me, he'll do it with his dad, he'll feed the dog with me, he'll feed the dog with his dad. And we set the table, we both cook. So at the house, all he sees is that we are equal and we do everything together. So yeah.
There is also it's like, but we can say that from Haiti mentality we have an exception, because many really think, but the boy close to the store, that what do you want to become? This is like a girl or woman task. You don't have to as a taste food like cooking. No, this is not even then the opposite too. Something no, that is but a ladder for a girl. No, this is you can make damage as of what you don't know about this. But those adults are really bad culture, because for real, there is really no big difference. They both can do everything, and this is even the whole pleasure. That when this is the sharing is really the best, and afterwards the orientation we can automatically what that by there you can also start to see what is the orientation this would like this, and for even later on for choosing a profession and everything. That's been let them work together, and that will come automatically, but not specifically like the separation between both. And this is two different. No, that's really, this doesn't really. The real pleasure is to have them in the house. So we have hand and everything with where we have it, and that's it.
Thank you for sharing. Emilia?
I laugh because I when I read the questions, I came right at you with that one. It's like, Saskia, what kind of question is that? But from my own upbringing, I can echo what your mom and sister said, that it wasn't anything different in terms of how I have a younger brother, and there was no difference in how we were raised in terms of he's a boy and he shouldn't do this, and you're a girl and you should do that. Both my brother and I learned how to cook. We both learned how to clean. My mom always prided herself on when my brother went to college at FSU that he could totally take care of himself. So she said, "Oh yeah, you don't have to order food because you know how to cook everything." So we never had that difference. There was no difference in terms of our ambitions, what we could attain or couldn't attain. In my own household, my husband and I share duties on everything. My husband actually does 95% of the cooking in our house. It started that I work so far, and my commute each way from work is like an hour and a half. So I would always end up getting home an hour later than he did in the evening. So it always just made sense that he would cook when he got home, and then I would get home later and we would eat together. And even now that we are home in the situation, he took some time off of work, and as a result he's doing a lot more of caring for the baby and the chores, like he's doing laundry right now and feeding our daughter lunch. And I have a lot more work responsibilities and help out around the house. I love to clean, so I do more of like the cleaning of the house, and then he does other things. And then she is brought up in an atmosphere where she sees that we do things together, and then there are things that he does and there are things that I do, and at the end of the day it's a partnership, and we were together to make our home function. And I definitely do not think like I we will ever put her in the mindset of, because you're a girl you do this, or because of a girl you're a girl you can't do that. Even when we found out what we were having, we did like a virtual gender reveal with our family. And once we revealed to them that we're having a girl, we told them, please do not gender type her and like put her in this like societal roles where this is expected of her because she's a girl. We don't want you all to be only buying her pink things or things with frills. Her room will not be pink or blue, it will be gray. And we were very adamant about that, and some of our family members were a bit like, no, but she's a girl and she should have princess stuff. And we said, sure, she can have princess stuff if you like, but she can also have pirate stuff and fireman stuff and like all these different things. It doesn't have to be that she's like restricted in certain things. And she to this day she dresses in different colors. And I think for a large part people were somewhat confused even about her gender, because a lot of times like we would have her in blues and grays. And one person once told me, oh, your little boy is so cute. And I said, oh, she's a girl actually. And she said, really? Because she's always like in little elephants and blues and grays, and I thought it was a boy. I said, no, it's just we don't care what color she wears, or like what it if it says princess or something else on it. She's a human being, and we want her to experience and explore different areas. So in terms of like my work, that's one of the things that we know, that kids are not born with like a gender specific mindset in terms of, because I'm a girl I do this, or because I'm a boy I do this. This is something that society creates for children. It's not until kids are about 3 years old that they start becoming more aware of the societal norms and expectations based on their genders. So it's not something we'll be adhering to at all.
Thank you so much for answering this question. Now we're going to take a quick break. So, you can walk around, drink some water, use the ladies' room. And before you go, I wanted to bring to your attention that, as most of you might know or maybe not, we are a nonprofit organization, so we only function based on your donation. So if you're watching and you like what you're saying and you want to participate, I am going to put the link in the chat where you can make your donation. There's no small donation, anything, And at the same time, for those of you who love Amazon like me, you can also request to every time you buy things on Amazon, you can request to from Amazon. They have something called Amazon Smile. I'm gonna also put it in the chat. So while you're purchasing, you can pick an organization, and then they will give us like some donation based on what you purchase. So you can do that as well. So we'll greatly appreciate it. So we're going to take now a 15 minutes break, and we'll be back soon after that. So, thank you, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. Um, for those who just joined us, this is our Empowering Motherhood Conference, and our today's speakers are Christelle Larco, Dr. Emilia, Goodfriend, Dr. Eyma, and yeah, so we're going to dive right back into it. So, ladies, next question is about our struggle. So, the question, I'm sorry, I just lost my question sheet. 1 second. Oh my goodness. Okay, so many moms struggle with their identity, mostly worrying, about bouncing back and mom guilt. Do you find that common as well?
I know personally, I've experienced a lot of mom guilt, and I did not think I would, because I kept trying to stay conscious of it, and I'm like, mom guilt is a thing, and I shouldn't feel guilty for being a mom and a professional and whatever. But once I went back to work, so because of the nature of my job, I was able to be out of work from January 2021 till August 2021. And then I had to go back to work. And for my first semester back, I was working partially on campus and partially at home. The first 8 weeks I was home, the other 8 weeks of the semester I was back on campus. And I definitely felt guilty leaving and going to work. My mom was taking care of our daughter, which is great. I knew exactly who was with her and I felt comfortable. And I knew my mom would take care of her pretty much how I would want to take care of her. But there was some of that. I am her mother and I'm leaving her and going away. And but I think the mom guilt got worse I guess in January, when I decided to do the spring semester at home. So I was home, but I was teaching all day in another room. So I would hear her in other parts of the house, like calling for me, or she's crying because of something, and I would want to get up and run to her aid, but I'm busy lecturing, so I can't do that. And there have been moments where she will come knocking the door that of the room I'm in and goes, Mama, Mama. And it those moments, I think my heart broke a little bit for her.
Yeah. Uh, for the mom guilt, I um, I was not able to breastfeed my son like I really wanted to. I did like a mix feeding, so he was partly breastfeeding and mostly on formula. So and I remember like crying all the time and saying to myself like, why can't I do this? Why can't I, like feed him? Why can't I breastfeed? And I remember my mom telling me that, you know, I didn't need to do all of that. I could just, he was happy, he was healthy, he was fed, he was clothed, he was clean. So I should be focusing on all the positivity instead of this one thing that was not working. Took me a couple of months to get over that. And well, finally, I did like the mix feeding all the way till the fourth month, fourth or fifth month, and until I went back to Haiti. And once I was back in Haiti, he was strictly on formula. And I didn't feel bad anymore, um, because to me, like, I was always telling myself, like, he's happy, he's healthy, he's clean, he sleeps through the night. It was just like this random little things that I had to remind myself to be like, okay, um, I can do this. I don't have to, be guilty about wanting to do certain things for myself. And afterwards, once I went back to Haiti, I started working again. And I that's when he went to my aunt's house. And I wasn't feeling bad because he was there, but every time like we went back home and I wasn't done with work for that day, And I was always worried that I was going to be mad, that I wasn't going to spend time with him, or I had to work while I was with him. And right now I'm realizing that he just wants me to be around. So his play area is right behind my work area. So I can hear him play and he'll come show me his cars. And if I'm in a Zoom like this, I'm quite surprised he didn't just come and like, look, a truck. So because he's currently with his dad right now on the other side of the house. So I can have this moment to be with you guys. So um to me, I'm learning to not feel guilty for the things that I want. Like I want a moment to myself. I need that moment for myself because like, especially when he's having his tantrums. So I'm like, okay, I need a moment. You can sit in your play area. I'm just gonna be right over there. When you're done, you know, I'll come, I'll, sit with you. Um, I just need a minute to gather my thoughts to be able to do that. But most of the time, like sometimes when I have to work late or I have a project that's due right like the next day and I will have to work mostly through the night, because I mostly work from home, but he's out most of the day and I spend my afternoons with him. So those little moments, sometimes when I have to, work and my husband will come home, my husband will give him his bath, my husband will put him to bed, like I feel bad. And sometimes I even, cry because I feel bad. So now, I just get my priorities straight and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work till that time. And then I know like it's gonna be bad time, bedtime, and then we take the time to do all of this as a family now. So it's a little bit of like, finding a balance between the two, but it's never really perfect.
Thank you. What it mostly is about is just finding that balance, and you win some, you lose some. Some days will be better than others.
I wanted to comment on that real quick.
Mhm.
While listening to you sharing, well, to begin with, my son is gonna be 11 in the summer. But talking about mom guilt, I think personally, I overdid everything, and this kind of worries me about my next child because I always tell myself it's never gonna be the same. First of all, I always tell everybody I don't think I've slept since I got my son. Like I'm going on 11 years of sleepless night. And talking about guilt and overdoing it, like I remember I was so worried about doing everything right and reading all of these papers and about breastfeeding. Every time I say the story, people look at me. But I was so nervous about everything. I breastfed my son until he can't remember now. That's how bad this was. So and now wanting to leave him with nobody, always carrying and reading all these stories, like people doing crazy stuff to children and about learning and all these doctors. So yeah, I just wanted to share my little struggle. We're still struggling.
No, I think mom guilt is something that we all deal with in different aspects. Is you just want to have your babies with you at all times, but it's not very possible, is it? Did somebody
think-
can say something?
I think I had like a really bad, I think I'm not getting over it. I had a really bad incident where it created a lot of mom guilt for me. Was my daughter fell when she was 6 months old. Um, my husband wasn't well and I was like still healing and not getting a lot of sleep myself. And with my husband being sick, he couldn't help. As much as I remember being extremely exhausted and saying to him, I'm so exhausted, I don't know how I'm going to like be able to take care of her myself today. And I had called my mom and she had to work, so she couldn't help me. And at the time we had a nanny who was coming in for a couple of days a week, just spend like about 3 hours with her while he gave me an opportunity to take a shower and have a meal and stuff like that. But that day, the nanny couldn't stay. And I remember saying my husband was on the way to do some x-rays. And I remember saying, I don't have the energy. I feel so depleted. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was trying to put her to sleep and she wouldn't fall asleep. But she was on the bed laying down. And at some point, I seemed to have dozed off. And the next thing I know, I'm sure it wasn't more than maybe a minute or two, but I flew up and I'm like, oh my God, Ava. When I looked, like she's on the floor bawling, and I'm like, I can say that that incident gave me so much trauma. Thankfully, she was okay. I rushed her to the doctor's office. My husband was there, and she had ended up rolling over, and a pillow fell before her, so she ended up like partially on the pillow, partially on the floor. But it's still like a kind of height from our bed to the floor, and our entire house is tiled, so there was a lot of concern there. But after that, I think it's only now that I'm starting to get past it. But after that, I realized that I would be asleep. And if my husband turned at night, I would just grab him because I thought it was her that's about to fall. So it became kind of like a reflex. And I think now I'm actually getting to the point where I'm like, okay, she's okay. It happened. She's okay. But it was very tough at that moment to deal with that, knowing that I lapsed in taking care of her. And a lot of my friends who were moms then were like, girl, come on. My child has fallen like so many times. I have lost count. And all mothers go through that. We all experience the falls. You'll be okay. As long as she's okay, it's okay. And it's like, oh, it's so traumatic.
Yeah, good. Those one too.
Shall say that our mom said that is really, this is important even for whole life for everyone. Learn to see the glass not half empty but half full. Learn to see the white page and then a little black dot in the middle. This is the only concentrate. What is this black dot? No, but what about the whole white around the black dot? That is what we have to live with. And it's all those experience I had between the two, and my Saskia and my boy, this is not the same. And even they are 5 years difference. This is not the same. But also between they are from birth to 3, they were not in the same culture. As Saskia was in Germany, in Haiti. And this is not the same. Once I come from home and then I see, where is it? Immediately I come home. Just after entering, I have to ask, where is it? Immediately. And then he was there. I said, what about he was there? And then I was praising it. It's a yard with a lot of space. And then suddenly I hear, and I found him sitting under a table with the Q-tips in the ears, really intense. And then when I just take him, the ear was completely blood. And I said, oh my goodness, he has a hole in the eye from September.
Eardrum.
I just rushed to the doctors and instant by the time I come in, he already had fever of 42 degrees. That's because the luck is he's so young, he's really a child that will go again, but that helped me learn that he has this ear, the ear canal is a little bit narrow. Then I learned about that. And then afterwards, everything is okay. As of now, I know that sometimes he has to use not Q-tips, but the one with the hole in the middle, so that you don't push the wax inside the ear.
No one should be using Q-tips, really.
Yeah, that's his advice. And then in that, for him, is mandatory. Even for normal people, it's advanced, but for him, it's mandatory. But because anytime you will push the ear out, the wax in the ear, and that cracks him, that bother him. That's why he was continue with this until making a hole in the ears. But he doesn't have any trouble anymore. That was a blessing that he had it so early. Then I could learn that from that. Was it? And even with Saskia, that was also something. And the first year I was in the campus, and then before it's done, and I had to change that and go with the campus with the child. Then now I say, wow, in this culture, why could I have home health? What should I do? I don't have the inner sleep. But anyway, I said that is also a habit that I developed to pray over something before to go in. And then I found a lady who said, I just have my children out of the house, and then I don't want to stay alone. But I have a condition to rent the space. It is only if you accept me to take care of the baby. Can you imagine? I was looking something on the hammer, on the sky. It's come to me in my hand. And now she's with me. She was like her own grandmother. That's mean the first, but the second year now Saskia is too heavy for her. She cannot take it. What should I do? Now I have to find the normal way, like everybody. Now to do.
Daycare?
Yeah, suddenly I come. That's what not a daycare. That was a family with the two children, but they were looking for some extra money to this helping other people with them, and I found that is the best for me. But I have to have more open eye. Exactly. Or one day I come to pick it up, and then I saw her coming with the arm completely straight along her body. And I said, what happened with her? And she said, no, she's okay. She said, no, she's not okay. This arm is not okay. I said, well, okay, what is it? When I look, I say, she cannot raise it. That means she was strong, and maybe she was doing something, and then they want her to do something else, and they pull her in her hand, and she pulled back. Then that was a luxation on your shoulder. Suddenly have to watch there. You cannot not having less than guilt than that, because I said that shouldn't happen if But anyway, that's it's corrected very quick. And as you say, that every mom, every child will have one fall sometimes, and so that anything can happen. That means you have to learn to see what is the whole white page, what positive, and not only fix on the just little the black dot in the middle of the page.
Yeah, and I don't know, when we talk about the identity issues, I was thinking just myself, after 3 kids, it's every day in, day out, you wake up, take care of the 3, send them to school, and go to work, and repeat every day for 9 months, 10 months. And it's easy to find, okay, so what do I actually want to do? Like, what is my new self after having those 3 kids? Like, I need to find myself. What do I enjoy doing? So it's something that I've been pondering on for the past little bit there, is because it's crazy. You become this mom of 3, wife and mom of 3. Okay, well, who am I? So it's not a very interesting thing to go through. So we're going to move on. So the next question that Christelle brushed on that earlier, how we were talking about you need that me time, the time for yourself. I found that's like really important, especially talking about the identity. Like, you need the time to recharge. You can't give from an empty cup. You have to keep refilling your cup. So what are some things that you guys are doing to refill your cups? Do you do that? Is that something that you think is that you can maintain, how important is that to you?
So the reason why I'm laughing is because you sit down, you put things in place. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do this for myself, and then you do it once, you do it probably twice, and then you never do it again. So well, I try to I'm a creature of habit, so I like to have my things done a certain way. And like right now, probably the only thing that I do for myself and that's non-negotiable is the time that I go do my nails. So this is the only time that is just me. My phone is on do not disturb. You will not find me. So I usually leave my son with my husband, and and he's a great dad. Like he's always like, okay, fine, go do you, take your time, take a minute for yourself. I think you should go do your nails this weekend because I feel like you're a little stressed. You know, like he's really good at, you know, being a great spouse, a great partner, and a great dad. So every 2 to 3 weeks, I take like 2 hours to myself to just go do my nails. Sometimes I might go with my sister, and most of the time I just go by myself. But I've been telling him that I wanted to get into drawing again. So, and every time I set everything up, I'll draw that first day and then I'll never draw again. So he's but most of the time I'll just, take my iPad, go to the room, and I was like, okay, I'll just watch a show. Just, to relax. And 3/4 of the time he'll come into the room, I'm already sleeping, my iPad is just going off, and yeah. So maintaining the time to yourself, not so much, but trying to make it happen, yeah. And also I am really happy and really glad that, my parents are not too far, my in-laws are not too far, um and they've been really great at, helping us out, taking my son for a weekend, for an afternoon, and that, especially when, like the other day, my mom took my son on a Saturday and I went out with my sister and my husband and a couple of friends. And, when my husband and I got home, it was just our time to ourselves. It's like we had time to tell each other what was happening, reconnect and stuff. Like, and I think this is really important to, refill your cup, is evaluate where you are and see where you want to go and what you want to change. And that, I believe that this is also important. So yeah.
I personally, I think it's like the whole saying, those who can't do teach. Because in my human development class, I constantly tell my students, well, like parents should make the time for themselves because you need to be able to take care of you, to be able to take care of the baby and all these things. But after having our daughter, it just felt like there were never enough hours in the day for anything else other than taking care of her. Like, okay, she needs to feed. All right, then she just fed. Now she needs to change. Is she okay? She needs a nap. Now she's up from a nap. She needs to feed again. And it just felt like the cycle was just continuously. And getting a minute to even take a shower felt like a huge thing in a day. In the first few months after my husband went back to work, it was just like, okay, I would take showers and she would be in her little like chair or whatever in the bathroom. And she hated me going into the shower because our shower is one of the door. So she didn't like the fact that I was going in and closing the door, and she would yell. And I just like, okay, 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 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and I'll be out. So for a while, that was the fast of just me making time for myself. But working out has always been like, well, not always, but like I guess since my early 20s, working out became like a huge part of just me and my physical wellness. And once I got pregnant and my pregnancy was so tough, I pretty much stopped working out and would only go walking occasionally with my husband. And after I had her, nothing wasn't happening. I was barely going out to walk. I wouldn't even work out. And February of this year, I just decided, okay, you know what? I need time to work out. It's not only good for my physical well-being, but it also helps a lot with my psychological health. I need to make the time. So I said to my husband, I said, I need to do something. And I'm not asking for time every single day, but I need time a few days a week to get some physical activity in. So that has become my thing where 3 to 4 days a week, at least 3 days, I would work out and just carve out an hour for me to get that time to work out. So since February, I've been consistent with it, and it's been great. And my mood always like lifts immediately after a workout. And I think it's like it's good for not only for me, but it's good for my family as well. And my daughter, like I work out where she can see me from her play area, and she usually is there like cheering me on as I'm working out, which is nice, the little motivation. And it's her witnessing me doing something positive for my health that I hope that she will want to adopt in the future.
Thank you so much, ladies. I wanted to share again for, my experience was like a little bit different since, I was here in the state and mostly away from any close relative. So like I said, I overdid everything. And I took my son everywhere with me. Like I even took him to work. So sometimes like now he really thinks like it's okay, because the other day he was asking like, oh, you never took me to that new place where you work. I don't know that new place. And I'm like, this is like not the hangout spot. But and truly like that may, I mean, obviously like the closeness is really good, like he tells me everything, but at the same time I think for a long period of time I kind of like lost my identity, and it became more like me overdo everything kind of was a reflection of my own insecurity, and I was reflecting everything that was happening inside of me on my son, like thinking like, oh my gosh, he needs me to do this, oh my gosh, like he's not gonna survive if I'm not around, like oh my gosh, like and then I find out that this kid, like every chance that he gets to be around somebody, he forgets all about me. And I started taking it very personal, honestly, because he will go to my cousins for the weekend and he will not call me unless somebody said like, did you call your mom? Like, oh mom, how you doing today? What did you do? It's like, okay, so I guess we'll talk later. And I'm like, no, you don't care about me. And I take it very personal. But I felt, but once I realized that, of course, so I started kind of like, little by little, kind of like finding ways to find things that I like to do, like, going to the gym, get back in shape, like doing little things for myself that I forgot that I enjoyed doing before I was a mother. Like Saskia said, like you have this kid and then now it's just like I'm a mom. Every time somebody asks you like, what are you doing? Well, it's all about the kids. Like my kids do this, my kids do that. Like it's like amazing. And it's like, okay, so but what about you? Like, oh well, I'm a mom, and it's really, really important. But it's so easy. I think it's so easy to kind of like lose yourself in your child and kind of identify yourself in your kids when meanwhile the kids is living their own life. Like, my son, he has his whole life planned out, what he's doing in college, high school. When he gets married, he doesn't want me to stay alone, so maybe he will let me come and live with him. He got everything figured out. Anyway, so well, next question, which is something that we found like it's very important. So you ladies, how do you deal with the importance of quality time with your partners, especially you having younger kids? Was this impacting or not impacting, spicing, not spicing?
My husband, I actually left the house. I guess it was maybe like 2 weeks ago. We finally left the house without my daughter. We had never done that before. So like she was like, no, she's 15 months. So imagine all the time since before COVID, we had never left the house to go on a date. Our last date had been January 2020. And we decided, okay, you know what? Let's go to lunch. And it was a huge thing for us because my mom usually comes over on a Tuesday to help us out around the house. I'm with her. And we said, okay, we want to go for lunch. And my mom's like, oh, sure, go ahead. And thinking, well, you sure? Church, we should do this. Like, and the whole time we have to be kind of convincing each other, yes, we can do this. We can leave the house. Like, she's fine. She's totally okay. And we left the house and we're driving around and realized most places we don't want to go anywhere with inside seating. Most places at this point are not doing outside seating anymore, because this is Miami. So it was difficult to even find anywhere to eat. And it would go to places and they would say, no, we're not sitting anyone outside, and they had outside tables. So we drove around for over an hour just trying to find somewhere to eat, and ultimately ended up going back to where we started off and eating from there. He had to go inside to get the food. But the whole time we're there eating, we have cameras all over our house. We kept logging onto the cameras to check on my mom and my daughter. And he's like, oh, they're walking around the house. Oh, they're playing. Like, we are horrible. We can't even go to lunch and just like get away for a minute. And we ate and we got back home and like, oh, how are you all doing? How's everything been? Knowing that full well we knew exactly how they had been doing because we were looking at them the whole time. And since then we have tried for the past couple weeks to leave the house for about an hour together while my mom is here. But it it's been hard. It's really been really hard. By the time we're done with her in the evening and we do all of her bedtime routine stuff, we're both super exhausted. So we would decide, oh, let's watch a TV show together. And that's kind of like been the magnitude of what we've been able to do together, is watch an hour of a television show. And then he flips over and is like, okay, good night. And that's it. So we really have a hard time carving out time for each other. Just the two of us. And the other thing is we love spending time with her. So we know that we need to spend time together, just the two of us as a couple. But then we're like, oh, what? We want her to be part of it. We want her to be involved. So it's something we're working on, and it's definitely a work in progress. And hopefully, we get to the point where we're more comfortable leaving her and going to do fun things together.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Like he just came to say hi. Um, so quality time with my partner is not non-existent, but sometimes we don't really make an effort to make it happen. So like I mentioned earlier, like the other day, my mom took my son for a night and I went out with my sister and a few friends and we had dinner together. And when I got home, me and my husband, we stayed up talking for like maybe like a couple of hours just because we wanted to catch up. And I feel like it's something that we don't get a chance to do when Idris is around. So um, to me, I try to make time, maybe not daily, but at least like sometime in maybe like Friday after we get home, because we eat with my in-laws on Friday. So after eating with them, we go home. Usually my son falls asleep on the ride home. So we put them in bed and then we stay up. Either we watch a movie that I never watch because I fall asleep. Um, and or we'll go to bed and then we'll talk about different things, or try to plan out like everything for the week, for the weekend, like if we have plans, if we don't. So there's not a lot of quality time with my husband, but we try to make time for it as much as we can. As much as we can. So, sorry, he's tickling me. So, um, so, so yeah. So yeah. Okay, I'm done.
It's like, mom, it's time. I give you enough time.
It's funny that you guys mentioned that because it just made me realize that my husband has a vacation coming up in June. So I took some time off also. I'm like, well, first time in like how long we've been in Canada here, almost 12 years, that we actually have a vacation together. So I took that time, planned everything, like we should probably do something more than just, hang out. The kids will be at school still. So I found out there's Cirque du Soleil playing here. So we're gonna book something. Okay, great. Before I book it, I need to find something to watch my three. So the whole process is in my head was, do I really want to ask somebody to watch three kids? Because my oldest is almost 12, then 7, and then 5. There are three very active children, and they love to eat. So it's always do I want to bring them somebody to the house, now have to prepare food for them to go, because otherwise that person's fridge is gone. And I don't know, I have to walk myself like mentally, okay, yes, we need that. Like we finally have that time when we can actually do something together. Like, okay, yes, fine, we have to do it. So finally I booked it. It's being done, but it was a whole mental process. All that to say, well, you guys have been going at it for a while. We're almost done. Now, talking about partners and relationships and stuff, that's part of our joys of going through motherhood. How do you find dealing with conflict resolution? So either with your partner or, well, I guess you guys have really young children, but still they have their little characters yet. So like dealing with, those mini conflicts that come with them. Like how do you handle that?
Oh man. Where we have we've had our definitely have had our moments where we've gotten into it where he wants something for her and I'm like no, or I want to do something in particular and he doesn't want it. And it has gotten difficult at times because we're like my husband's a biologist, I'm a developmentalist. So he would talk about the biological aspects of things and why is this good in this particular ways. And then I would say, well, you're not thinking about this aspects of her development and whatever. So we would butt heads and we're both very headstrong people. Our house is 3 Pisces under one roof. I don't even know how we're surviving, but we will bump heads and it was just like, you're not listening to me and you feel like your way is the only way. And we'll have those moments and it will take a little bit of time for us to step away from a situation and reassess and remind each other, like, ultimately, we both want what's best for her. And neither of us are trying to undermine the other or we're not thinking about her best interest at heart. We just need to be able to hear each other a lot better and listen a lot better and try to understand the other person's perspective, even though it's different from our own. So we're doing a little bit better with spending that time just assessing the situation and going through it a little bit and figuring out how do we compromise on it. I think since both he and I were single for so long, we're used to not asking anybody else for their opinion and just doing what we want to do without considering like somebody else's viewpoint. But since we got together, there's been a lot of that compromise. And now with her, there's even more compromise. And then there are things where he is very adamant about, and he'll say, okay, you know what? I really want to do this, and these are the reasons why, and I need you to go along with me on those. And it'll be initially be difficult at first, but along the way, at some point, we are able to talk about it, and I can say, okay, well, in this situation scenario, fine, you can have your way on this because I understand all the benefits of what you're doing here, and there are things from my end at points where I say I'm not going to waver on this decision, and we'll have to talk about it, and he'll have to come to an acceptance that this is something that I am feeling very strongly about. But it's it's constant like growth that has to occur, and I think it's a very like uncomfortable position to be in at times, trying to navigate the whole how do we come to a resolution here whenever where she's concerned and even other aspects of our relationship. But we're taking the time to do the work, which I think is what's most important.
Well, for me, like my husband is, and since the beginning of our relationship, like, and we've been together for almost 9 years now. So we talked about everything. So, and now we still talk, even when we disagree on stuff, then we have to find a better way to manage the household, or I needed to figure out, what day I was gonna go drop off my son, what day he was gonna do it. And I remember at first I was doing it a lot, and right now he's the only one who takes him to school. But it was, like finding some common ground that could really work for both of us. So there's a lot of talking going on in my household. So we talk a lot. We talk about what's bothering us, and and everybody needs some time to cool down from like little arguments too. So most of the time he'll be like, listen, I can't talk to you right now. I just need some time to, come down, clear my mind, and we can have this conversation a little later. And even when, things escalate a little bit, he's still there, telling me, well, we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna be able to do we're going to be able to figure it out together. And that's what we've really been doing, is trying to find some common ground where both of us are comfortable. And so pretty much that's what we're trying to maintain. And this also translates to dealing with Idris, because we talk to him a lot also. There's no one else in the house except for us three. We don't have a nanny, we don't have a cook, so it's just really us three in the house all the time. And I try to explain to Idris like everything. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. And when he's going through his tantrum, I like, I need a minute. You need to come down. I need to come down. And then we can, find something that's gonna work for both of us. And I can see him responding better to this than me losing my, like going off on him and telling him like, leave me alone, or walking away. Like I just, I tell him, I need a minute, I'm gonna be right back. And then, he gets to come down, I get to come down, and we're able to, find some middle ground for both of us. And I think it's because, my husband and I do it, that he sees it, and that's probably why he responds to it better.
Thank you so much, ladies. So our last two questions. What is the most important lesson that you have learned as a mother? And also, what advice, tip would you have for anybody who's currently a mother or is considering being a mom in the future?
Well, I actually wrote that down when Saskia sent the question, and I was like, oh, this is something that I learned in the last 2 years, is to that not every day is going to be perfect, and some days are going to be horrible. So I just went through like a whole month of my son being sick. So and last weekend was pretty horrible. He cried like all day, but still when we were putting him down at night, and we were saying goodnight, and he was like, "Funny mama, funny papa, ademe," like these little things, like he's telling us good night, he's telling us see you tomorrow, or like this little moment, you know, like just made my day so much better. And I was feeling terrible because he was sick. We didn't know what was going on. And so finally, like this little moment at the end of the day where he was saying like good night, and he was saying that it was okay, to see you tomorrow. And so, and it was okay that we were going to see him tomorrow. And that little moment like outshine the terrible day that we were having. So not every day is gonna be perfect. Like some days might be terrible, but there's always a little perfect moment in that day. And also, this is my takeaway, and this is also my advice to other parents, is that it's okay to have a bad day, but you're gonna have a moment in that day that's gonna just not make it suck as bad.
I think for me, one of the biggest things that I have learned um, is that listening to her is necessary. I think sometimes like parents think, well, kids don't necessarily have anything to contribute, or they're too young to have an actual perspective. But with even with her not being totally verbal yet, her demeanor, the ways that she will like try to convey certain things in those moments when we take an opportunity to listen to her cues, pay attention to her cues, things turn out a lot better. Like she's at the point where she doesn't want pureed food as much anymore. So she wants a lot more just like solids, and she wants to eat what we're eating. And for a while, we're very like, well, you need to eat your purees, and like, come on, let's try to feed you this food. But I think no, we're a lot more along the lines of, okay, well, we're having this, and you can have what we're having, and as long as you eat enough food, we're okay with you not having to have the puree right now if you don't want it. If she will do this thing, if she doesn't want any more puree, she'll say, nah, 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 nah. So no, when she tells me nah, I'm like, okay, all right, cool. You don't want any more. I respect that. So we're paying a lot of attention to like her feedback, or like if you ask her for a kiss and she doesn't want to kiss you right now, she'll turn her head and be like, okay, that's I respect that. You don't want me to kiss you right now. Like if at any point that you want to kiss me, I will welcome it. But I respect you. It's your body. You have autonomy. So you don't want to kiss, that's fine. So we're making sure that she recognizes that her voice is important, and that we are paying attention to that. My I guess my advice to other parents would be, in addition to paying attention, I think one of the things that I'm at moments still grappling with and I'm getting more comfortable with is the whole concept of giving yourself grace. It's hard being a parent, and there will be all like the great times, and society teaches us how we should like being a parent is the best thing ever, and you should be very proud of it. And yes, we are very proud of it, but there will be moments where you really don't feel like being around your kids, and you want to like run away and be by yourself for a little bit, or that your child is throwing a tantrum and you're overwhelmed and you feel flooded and you don't know what to do, and they may be like doing something that others say, oh, this is wrong and they shouldn't be doing that, but you're just at your wits end, and like you don't know like what else to do. Like our daughter watches TV, and she has a particular program that we allow her to watch, and it's like very educational and entertaining for her at the same time, and we allow her to watch some of it. Like she doesn't watch TV all day throughout the day, but there are times where we're doing things and we need her to be focused on something else for us to get an opportunity to do what we need to do, and we will turn it on. And sometimes like there'll be that, but she should be watching TV, and you should be spending more time with her. You should be sitting there and doing activities with her all day, and like making sure that she is getting all this cognitive development. And at those moments, you have to remind yourself, it's just us doing this. There's nobody else here doing it. And in those moments, to give yourself the grace and recognizing that you're doing the best that you can.
Awesome. This is great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all. I know we ran much over what we anticipated. I'm sorry about that. But in the meantime, just if anybody has any questions, any things to add, well, this is the time. Thank you.
Well, I have one question, right? Like I mentioned earlier, this is probably for anybody who has more than one child. It's something that I really I find myself really struggling with. I know I put so much time, energy, effort into I mean my first kid, my only child now, that I often tell myself I don't think I have anything less for any other kid. So how, like, I know I like, Saskia, we probably will be able to help me a little bit. Like, is it really like how, I mean, I don't know, like, how do you do it all over again and make sure you invest everything that you invested in your first child in any other kid that you have after that? Because I always tell myself, I don't think it's ever going to be the same thing.
That's funny. um, I have quite a big gap, well, 4 years, almost 5 years between my first and second. So by the time David was born, Lauren was able to help out with a lot of things. And yes, sure, I had to basically start over with the whole teaching thing and like, raising a child from like birth. But even though a lot of things are the same, a lot had changed in 4 years. So it's like relearning the same process. It's never really the same. Like with Lauren, I remember they were like, if you want to give eggs during like solids, that's great, but make sure you don't give the egg whites because it's not good for children. They can't process it. Okay, great. So my son is born. I'm looking for things. No, you have to give them the whole egg because the protein is great. So it's like it's constant learning always. So the thing for me was always to find people who had kids the same group as my kids, because then it's easy. There wasn't any COVID, thank goodness. And yeah, I found those kind of villages like Krista was mentioning, because I live in Vancouver, like west side of Canada. I know nobody there. So it was good to find those kind of niche people where I couldn't associate with, and you can help. Like I said, Lauren was 5, so a lot of things she could do. She was at school at some point. With like 5, 6, she went to school. So it became just me and that time with him. Now when I had Rosie, those two were close in age, so almost like I had twins. Dave was barely 2 and then Rosie was 1. So it was okay, great. Now this one is potty training, but that one is breastfeeding. So here I was with like a child on my arm and carrying the other one to go potty training. It was interesting. A lot of things were the same because it was just like less than 2 years. So it wasn't a lot of learning in that area, but just you go with the flow, and every child have their own characters right from birth. So, you teach them, you learn from them, and then find yourself a village. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well,
No? Okay.
on that note, I want to again thanks everybody who took their time to join us today. We know here in the state it's a busy weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, having you around, it was a great discussion, and I really enjoyed, and I hope everybody else did as well. Thank you so much to our speakers. Christelle, we're so nice having you, seeing your face. um, Miss Dr. Goodfriend, and ah, I get emotional every time I look at your mom's face. I mean, one picture, Saskia. I hope she's still here. I was telling Saskia, oh my gosh, like it's been so long, and this is bringing me so much memories because we went to high school together,
Yeah,
and
Joy and I were at school together.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
And
my
Christelle.
mom.
Yeah, we were in the same class. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was truly an honor. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Emma. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And like I was saying, thank you everybody else who joined us today. I hope it was helpful to you guys who wants to have children or who already have kids. And I'm looking forward to more to collaborate some more with you ladies, and